Snowflakes drifted across the military runway as Sergeant Liana Brooks stood alone beneath the dim floodlights, clutching a small envelope with trembling hands. She had just asked her commanding officer for permission to go home for Christmas, but what she planned to do next was something no one on the base, not even the toughest generals, could have ever imagined. And by the time the truth came out, the entire base would be standing at attention, saluting her. Because sometimes the bravest missions aren't fought on battlefields. They're fought in the heart. Sergeant Liana Brooks had always been the soldier who never asked for anything. Not special treatment. Not days off. Not even help when she was clearly exhausted from double shifts. She was the kind of soldier who held the line, who stayed quiet, and who carried burdens with a strength others admired but didn't truly understand. But that December morning, something in her broke. She walked into Colonel Harris's office, her steps unusually hesitant. "Sir, I need to go home for Christmas," she said softly. The colonel raised an eyebrow. Liana never asked for leave, especially not during holiday deployment schedules. "Everything all right, Sergeant?" She hesitated. Her fingers curled into fists at her side. "Yes, sir. I just need to be home." She didn't tell him why. She didn't mention the phone call she had gotten the night before. She didn't mention the shaking in her mother's voice, or the doctor's words she overheard in the background. She kept all of that locked inside. Colonel Harris studied her face for a long moment. Something in her eyes, something heavy, something unspoken, made him pause. "You have 72 hours of clearance," he finally said. "Use them well." She saluted. "Thank you, sir." But as soon as she stepped outside, she didn't head toward the exit, or the shuttle, or even her quarters to pack. Instead, she walked toward the supply hangar. Toward a mission no one knew about. Her best friend on base, Corporal Jade Mitchell, ran after her. "Liana. You okay? You just got leave, you should be packing." Liana opened her locker and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. A folded flag. Jade's smile faded. "Leah, what are you doing?" Liana didn't answer. She simply stared at the flag, her father's flag, the one she had kept all these years. "He died on Christmas Eve," she whispered. "I never got to bring this home." Jade's breath caught. Liana finally lifted her gaze, and Jade saw it. The deep grief, the determination, the unspoken promise. "I'm not going home to rest," Liana said. "I'm going to fulfill the promise I made at his funeral. I'm bringing his honor home myself." Jade stepped closer. "But that's not an official mission. And you're—" "I know," Liana said quietly. "But some missions, we carry alone." Outside, the storm clouds gathered, the wind picked up, and the base lights flickered in the cold. And with that, Liana stepped out into the icy night. Toward a journey no soldier should walk alone. Yet she walked it anyway. Because for her, this Christmas was not about celebration, it was about closure. The snowstorm had worsened by the time Liana reached the transport wing. Her boots sank into the fresh snow as she trudged across the runway, clutching the flag to her chest. An aircrew sergeant spotted her. "Brooks? What are you doing here? You're on leave, aren't you?" "I need a seat on the next transport heading east," she said. He hesitated. "Weather's bad. And you don't have orders." "I don't need orders for this," she replied softly. "I just need a chance." Something in her voice silenced him. A soldier's plea, not for convenience, but for purpose. He finally nodded toward a small transport plane prepping for departure. "That's your best shot." Inside the cabin, as the engines roared to life, Liana pressed her forehead against the cold window, watching the lights of the base grow smaller and smaller. Her heart pounded, not out of fear, but out of urgency. 3 years. She had held on to her father's flag for 3 long years. 3 years without the courage to bring it back to her mother. 3 years of guilt because she hadn't been there on Christmas Eve when he passed. She whispered into the cold air. "Dad. I'm coming home." Hours later, turbulence shook the aircraft. The storm had worsened, wind slamming against the fuselage. The pilot shouted from the cockpit. "Hang on. We're diverting to the nearest base for emergency landing." Liana's heart dropped. Time was slipping away. Her mother's phone call echoed in her memory. "Liana, just come home. Please." Her mother never begged. That was what scared her the most. The plane finally touched down, hard, and skid across the icy runway before stopping. Liana jumped out as soon as the hatch opened. But what she didn't expect was to see soldiers lined up outside the emergency landing bay. Not one. Not 10. An entire formation. Waiting. And then Colonel Harris stepped forward. Her own colonel. He had followed her. Behind him, Jade. And behind Jade, dozens of soldiers from her unit. All standing at attention. All standing for her. "Sergeant Liana Brooks," Harris said, his voice steady. "You should not carry this alone." Tears spilled from her eyes as she clutched the flag. "I just want to bring my dad home," she whispered. "We know," Harris said. "Which is why." He stepped aside, revealing a military transport vehicle, engine running. "We're escorting you." Liana's knees almost buckled. "Sir, why?" He straightened. "Because your father served this country. Because you serve this country. And no soldier walks their hardest road alone, not on my base." The entire formation raised their hands. Salute. The wind whipped the snow around them, the floodlights glowing against the storm, as dozens of soldiers saluted a daughter carrying her father's honor. And Liana finally cried. Not out of grief, but out of the overwhelming weight of being seen, supported, loved. This Christmas, she wasn't going home alone. She was going home with an army behind her. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is ask for help, or admit they're hurting. And sometimes, the strongest soldiers are the ones carrying silent battles no one else can see. But no matter how heavy the weight, you never have to carry it alone. Because true strength isn't in standing by yourself. It's in accepting the hands that reach out to lift you.